Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. I have great news for you today because it's squishy time again. Let's Resin have brought out a brand new squishy kit with everything you could possibly need to make two fabulous Taba Squishies. If that sounds like fun, stay tuned and enjoy the video. Right then, before I make my squishy hamster and dragon, let me show you what came in the box. Now, before I received this, I knew it was going to have a hamster mould and a dragon mould in it. And I already had a hamster mould, and I was really expecting it to be the same thing. But this is about twice the size, and I was so pleased about that. And also we have the dragon mould there, which is also nice and large. The silicone on these moulds is thick and soft, and because it's soft, it's easy to demould the final squishes. So here we have the flex rubber A and B, and there's enough there to make one dragon and one hamster with some left over. There's also some white flocking powder and a mixing jug. Well, actually, I think there was 2 mixing jugs. Yeah, there we go. And some gloves. So traditionally, squishies are kept in bags and people squish the squishies while it's in the bag. It gives them a longer life. You don't have to, but that does tend to be the way people do it. And Let's Resin this time have really upped their game with the bags and given 3 very high quality, thick, large bags, kind of Ziploc bags with this set, which is a big improvement. Of course, there's also the manual. There's some eyes for the dragon and for the hamster. Next, I found a little bag in there with 3 chains, and the chains are for attaching the tags to the bags a little bit later on, and you'll see the tags in a minute. Here we've got 2 bottles of opaque pigment. There's a purple one and a creamy coloured one, and that pigment is designed specifically for use with flex rubber. There's also plenty of stirring sticks. There's a little brush for applying the pigment powder, which you will see in a moment. But most of all that really impressed me was that little pot of the mould release cream, which is perfect. In this box, there really is everything you will need to make 2 lovely squishies. Oh, and those are the little eyes for the hamster. And next we have the little tags that I was talking about. And this, what do they say? Squish your loneliness away. I couldn't remember for a minute what they said, but I think they're really cute. So let's have a look at the pigment powders. So here they are, they're really nicely displayed in a box. They remind me a little bit of a compact of eyeshadows. So yeah, that's really nice and convenient. And yeah, it's better than having lots and lots of little pots or bags, isn't it? I think that's a really great touch. So because Let's Resin have thought of absolutely everything that you will need, this is a great kit for someone who just wants to try it out, see if they like making squishies before taking the plunge and buying, bigger bottles of the flex rubber. This will really get you started, and those pigments will last for a long, long time, not just for making 2 squishies like, the box is designed for. Right, let's get making some squishies. Now, as you already know, it came with 2 bottles, part A and part B, and that's what you need to mix together to make your squishies. So it's an equal mixing ratio, 1:1, and you mix it by weight, not volume, which is good. I really do prefer it when you can mix things by weight. It's much more precise, and you don't have to be looking for the numbers down the side of the container to see if you've got the right volume. Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of measuring by weight. So anyway, in the manual, it tells you the weight you need of part A and part B for both of the moulds, which I think is a really thoughtful touch to, you don't have to find out the volume for yourself, and that's such a big difference. It just helps so much. A lot of the time with Let's Resin's moulds, it tells you actually on the mould what the volume of that mould is, which is good as well. But yeah, it's good to have it written down in the manual too. After I'd finished measuring out part A and part B, I gave it a really good mix. And I think I must have mixed it for about 3 or 4 minutes. Be keep going with it because you can't tell by looking at it if part A and part B are completely combined. You've just got to really be thorough. Really, give it plenty of time. Make sure you scrape the sides of the cup and the base with your stick to combine everything into the mixture. And then once it's mixed, it's time to add the pigment. I'm going for the cream pigment because I'm starting with the hamster and I wanted my hamster to be creamy coloured. Add just a small amount at a time until you get the colour you want. A little bit does go a long way, and if you add too much, it can really affect the finished curing time, and it could be too soft if you add too much pigment. So yeah, just be careful with it. With the pigment mixed in, it was time to add it to the mould. But before I could do that, I needed to add the mould release cream. And for that, I'm just using my gloved finger just to rub it all over the silicone. So if you didn't want to buy this starter kit but you still wanted to have a go with flex rubber, Let's Resin do make much bigger bottles that you can purchase, and if you did that obviously you wouldn't get the mould release cream, but what you can use instead is petroleum jelly. And as I'm watching this back, I can't help laughing at myself a little bit wearing those gloves, which were way too big for me. I suppose when they're supplying gloves, they have to put big ones in, don't they, in case someone's got big hands. But yeah, they're huge. So next time I'll use my own gloves, my nitrile gloves. But anyway, what I'm doing is making sure I get plenty of the mould release into those little areas like ears and feet where it can be a little bit trickier to get the flex rubber out afterwards, and then just covering it everywhere else, but making sure that in those awkward places there's plenty. So after that was done, I could pour in my flex rubber. I like to do it just a little bit at a time so that I can just give it a real good squeeze in all those awkward little areas to make sure that they're coated before just pouring it all in. That way you're much less likely to get pockets of air trapped in there. Once you've finished with the squishing, fill it all up to the top, and then you just need to leave it for about 4 or 5 hours before demoulding. And while my hamster was curing, I thought I might as well do the dragon as well. So I got straight on with that. It was exactly the same process again, apart from I used purple pigment instead of cream. But everything else was the same. So there was no point in me showing you everything all over again. Jumping forward in time, they're now fully cured and it's time to take them out of the moulds. And in advance, I decided to be nice and prepared. I got something non-porous to put my finished squishy onto, because you don't want to be putting it down onto something which is covered in fluff or, dust. You don't want anything sticking to it. It will be very, very sticky. So there I just have a sheet of acetate. And what you can see me doing now is very gently pulling it away at the edges from the mould. They are quite tricky to demould, especially when it's one that you haven't used before. You're not quite sure where the tricky bits are going to be. So you just have to be very careful. Pull it away from the mould. When you've pulled it away all the way around, then you can start turning the mould inside out and repeating the process, pulling it away but further down the mould. It's quite hard to explain. Hopefully you'll get the idea just from watching though. And you'll see that I'm wearing gloves, and you don't need to. I just thought I'd better explain that. You don't need to wear gloves. It's not harmful to your skin. I'm just not keen on the way it feels on my skin. And so, yeah, I was wearing gloves. The only problem is it was making life hard for me with the demoulding. So I did end up taking them off just because it was just too difficult. But yeah, that's why I've got gloves on. It's only for my own sensory issues that I have. So really, I started with the wrong one to show you the demoulding. It's quite hard to see when the squishy is the same colour as the mould, but it kind of clings to the mould and you've got to kind of rub your finger along the mould and then the squishy and it kind of rubs off. It's really hard to explain, but yeah, it takes a while for the demoulding. Don't worry about it. It's not a problem. It's the way it's supposed to be. You've just got to be patient and don't lose hope. It's not going to fall to bits because look at that. After all of that, it still looks like a perfectly formed hamster. And now I'm sure you can understand why I wanted something for it to sit on so I could pick it up easily without it sticking to my hands. After that, I did the purple dragon, and what I would say to you, if you've never made a squishy before and you get this kit, do the hamster one first, like I did, so you get the idea of how to demould them, because this one was definitely trickier than the hamster, and it took me a while. And I really do love this dragon, but there is one little drawback. He's got a very heavy head, and if you wanted him to be just sat up and not in a bag, you will find that he looks like he's falling asleep all the time because his head keeps dropping forward. That is the only issue with this gorgeous little mould, and you'll see now. Watch, you see how he see how he falls forward. Yeah, but it's okay because it's going in a bag and it won't fall forward when it's in a bag, will it? Right, my plan was to use the pigment powders on the dragon. So before I used those, I decided to put the eyes on because I thought if the pigment powder gets onto the eye socket area, it will stop it from being sticky and the eyes won't stay on. So that's why I put those on first. However, I did encounter an issue. You see, with both of the things I made, the eye area is domed, it's not flat. And so those eyes, they just didn't stay on. And it would be wrong of me to not tell you that. I like to be completely honest. I love this kit. It's got everything you need, but the eyes, well, I don't think the eyes are going to work. I really could not get them to stick. I ended up painting my own eyes on, and I'll show you how I did that very soon. It was very easy, but at least with them painted on, I knew they weren't going to drop off. So I had a lot of fun adding the pigment powders, and I really did take my time because it was enjoyable. I was in no rush. So what I'm going to do is speed it right up because honestly it did take me quite a long time, and yeah, you'll see it finish very, very soon. The pigment powders are finished and now it's time to give him his own eyes because I just wasn't happy with those eyes falling off. Painting the eyes on was actually extremely easy. I just took a very small brush so I could do it carefully and just used acrylic craft paint. And yeah, I tried to use the same colour as the eyes that I had on before because I thought that colour looked really cute. And once the pink was dry, I added the black in the middle. Painting a perfect black circle to match the size of another black circle is never the easiest thing to do, so I took a large dotting tool, dipped it into the paint and pressed it into the squishy eye, which really worked so well. There was a little bit of excess paint left over, but that just needs squashing down with a paintbrush. Once the black paint had dried, I added a touch of white paint on each pupil to give it a little bit of a highlight. And then once that had dried, I actually covered them in UV resin to make them shiny. The UV resin is not essential. This is Let's Resin's UV resin, by the way. I just wanted to try it and see how it worked. I was just trying my best to replicate the eyes that were in the box because they were so cute. And yeah, I think adding the UV resin really did enhance the eyes, but like I say, it's not essential. And after curing him under my Let's Resin wireless UV lamp, he was ready to go, and you'll see him again very soon. Let's just finish off my hamster. So you're actually seeing this in the wrong order. I did this before I decided to paint the eyes on, because these eyes were falling off as well. But it was so easy to just paint on a couple of black eyes, so no problems at all. And this one was very easy as far as the pigment powder goes too. It was just some pink on the cheeks and the feet and here and there, I can't remember now. Oh, the inside of the ears. Yeah, very simple. And then all I needed to do was cover it in the flocking powder. So I've put my hamster back onto the acetate that I used before. You don't need acetate. You put it on any smooth, shiny surface. Piece of glass would be fine. Anything that it won't stick to. Anyway, here you can see I'm sieving my flocking powder onto the hamster, and that's another optional thing. You don't need to do that. I just find that you get a much finer coverage if you sieve it onto the flex rubber. You don't get any big lumps on there that way. And you should be able to see now how different it is once you've added the flocking powder. It doesn't stick to anything. You can squeeze it and squidge it and move it around, no problem at all. So my hamster still has both his stick-on eyes, but you might even be able to see, I don't know, I think I can see that it's already falling off. This was all still way before I decided to paint the eyes on. So here I am putting it in the bag, but it did obviously come back out of the bag again when I decided to paint the eyes. But anyway, let's have a look at how well it fits in that bag. I think it fits perfectly. I think those new improved bags were such a great idea. It's not squashed in there, it's got plenty of room. So next all I needed to do was add the chain. There's already a little hole in the corner of the bag. You don't need to make your own hole. And then with the chain fastened through the tag, it's all finished. So you haven't seen the finished dragon yet, have you? Here it is. Now, at this point, I realised that it was still very sticky because obviously I hadn't covered it in flocking powder. I'd just used the pigment powder. But the eyes look good, don't they? I think they're much better. They're going to stay on and it wasn't too hard. But look, it keeps falling forward. Anyway, yeah, as I was saying, it was still a little bit sticky. And even though it was going to be going in a bag, I just thought it might be a good idea to see how it would look with a little bit of flocking powder, just to cover the areas that didn't have mica powder, that were still a bit, a bit sticky. And after I'd done that, I kind of regretted it, but still, you don't know unless you try, do you? And at least it was a lot easier to handle. Here I'm just brushing off the excess, and once all the excess was off, a lot of those original colours came back and it wasn't too bad at all. And there he is, looking very handsome, but refusing to sit up straight without falling asleep. I think it's very cute. I think out of the two of them, the hamster is still my favourite. I've always loved the hamsters. You just want to squeeze those cheeks. They're just adorable. And there he goes. But overall, I would give the Let's Resin Taba Squishie kit a 10 out of 10. Even though the eyes didn't stay on, the eyes were a tiny, tiny part of it. Everything else was just spot on and I'm very impressed and I would highly recommend it to you. If you're interested in getting one for yourself, please check out my discount code in the video description along with the link to take you directly there. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you would like to, and I will see you again next time. Thank you for watching and bye for now.